The black iron gates of the villa parted silently, like a secret being whispered. Maya Thompson stepped out of the chauffeured Mercedes, heels clicking against polished stone, and inhaled the crisp Seoul autumn air. At 28, she'd crossed an ocean to start over, Chicago heartbreak and empty bank accounts behind her. This live-in housekeeping position paid more in a month than she'd seen in a year. She could handle aloof rich people. She'd handled worse. A tall woman in a crisp gray uniform, Mrs. Kim, the head housekeeper, met her at the marble steps. "Miss Thompson, welcome. Mr. Park is in his study. He expects punctuality." Maya offered her warmest smile. "I'm never late. Lead the way." The villa was a fortress of glass and dark wood, every surface gleaming under recessed lights. No family photos, no clutter, just quiet wealth that felt cold. Mrs. Kim guided her through echoing halls to a set of double doors. "Knock once, enter when he says." Maya straightened her navy blouse, smoothed her curls, and rapped her knuckles lightly. A low voice answered in Korean, clipped and commanding. Mrs. Kim translated softly. "Enter." Maya pushed the door open. Park Seung-joon stood at the floor-to-ceiling window, back to her, hands clasped behind him. Black suit tailored to perfection, broad shoulders filling the frame like he owned the skyline beyond the glass. When he turned, the room seemed to lose oxygen. He was younger than she'd expected, mid-30s maybe, devastatingly handsome in that sharp, untouchable way. Jet black hair swept back, jawline carved from stone, eyes so dark they swallowed light. No smile, no warmth, just assessment. "Miss Thompson," he said in flawless English, voice smooth as obsidian. "You're early." "Figured better early than fired on day one." She extended her hand. "Maya." He regarded her palm for a beat too long before taking it. His grip was firm, warm, lingering a fraction longer than professional courtesy demanded. Electricity snapped up her arm. She didn't flinch. "You'll have the East Wing suite," he continued, releasing her hand. "Your duties are straightforward. Keep the main living areas immaculate, prepare light meals when requested, and stay out of restricted areas. The West Wing is off limits. Always." "Got it. No wandering into the Forbidden Wing." She tilted her head. "Anything else I should know? Allergies, preferred cleaning products, how you take your coffee?" His gaze flicked over her, quick, unreadable. "Black, no sugar, and I prefer silence while I work." "Noted." She smiled anyway. "Silence isn't really my brand, but I can dial it down." A muscle ticked in his jaw. Was that irritation? Amusement? Impossible to tell. Mrs. Kim cleared her throat. "I'll show you to your quarters." As they turned to leave, Seung-joon spoke again, quieter. "One more thing, Miss Thompson." Maya paused in the doorway. "Curiosity can be dangerous here." His eyes locked on hers, steady and unblinking. "Control it." The warning hung between them like smoke. Maya held his stare, chin lifted. "I'm pretty good at knowing when something's worth the risk." For the first time, something flickered behind that icy mask, something hot, fleeting, gone in an instant. Then he turned back to the window. Maya followed Mrs. Kim out, heart beating faster than it should. She'd come here to clean houses. She hadn't expected to walk into one that felt like a cage, or to meet the man who held the key and looked at her like he was already deciding whether to turn it. The first week passed in a rhythm of quiet luxury and watchful distance. Maya moved through the villa like a shadow with purpose, dusting obsidian shelves, polishing the endless glass, arranging fresh orchids that arrived weekly without explanation. The house smelled of cedar, expensive cologne, and the faint metallic edge of something unspoken. Park Seung-joon was a ghost in his own home. He left before dawn in a matte black Rolls-Royce, returned after midnight. When their paths crossed, it was brief. A nod in the hallway, his gaze sliding over her like cool water. Yet every time the air thickened. She felt it in the way his steps slowed fractionally when she passed, the way his fingers flexed at his sides, as if resisting reach. She told herself it was imagination. He was her boss, a dangerous one maybe, those late-night phone calls in rapid Korean, the men in dark suits who waited at the gate but never entered. She kept her curiosity locked tight, just like he'd warned. Until the third Thursday. Maya couldn't sleep. Jet lag lingered, and the villa's silence pressed too hard. At 2:17 a.m., she padded barefoot to the kitchen in oversized sweats and a tank top, curls loose around her shoulders. The moon spilled silver across the marble island. She opened the fridge for water and froze. Seung-joon sat at the far end of the island in nothing but black silk pajama pants, bare chest gleaming under the low pendant light. A glass of whiskey rested untouched beside an open laptop. Scars, thin, precise lines, crisscrossed his left ribs and disappeared beneath the waistband. Old violence etched into skin. He didn't startle, just lifted his eyes slowly. "Miss Thompson." Voice rough from lack of use, or maybe the hour. "You're awake?" "Couldn't sleep. You?" She closed the fridge, leaned against the counter opposite him. Distance. Safety. "Work." He closed the laptop with a soft click. His gaze drifted, down her bare arms, the curve of her collarbone, back to her face. Heat followed the path. She crossed her arms, mostly to hide how her pulse jumped. "You always drink alone at 3 a.m? "Only when the house is too quiet." "You make it less quiet." She laughed softly. "That a complaint?" "No." The word came out lower than intended. He stood, slow, deliberate, and rounded the island. Not crowding her, just closing the gap until she could smell whiskey and clean skin on him. He stopped an arm's length away. "Why did you take this job, Maya?" First time he'd used her name, it landed like a touch. Needed money, needed distance. Seoul seemed far enough. She tilted her head. "Why hire a foreigner who doesn't speak Korean?" "You looked unafraid." His eyes searched hers. "In your application photo, everyone else looked terrified." She swallowed. "Should I be?" He didn't answer right away. Instead, he reached past her, slow enough she could step away, and poured a second glass of water from the pitcher. When he handed it to her, their fingers brushed. Neither pulled back immediately. The kitchen felt smaller, hotter. "You're not like the others who've worked here," he said quietly. "They leave. You stay." "Maybe I'm stubborn." "Maybe." His thumb grazed the inside of her wrist, just once, accidental on purpose, before he let go. "Or maybe you see more than you should." She met his stare without blinking. "I see a man who's exhausted, who doesn't sleep, who looks at me like he's trying to decide if I'm trouble." A ghost of a smile, sharp, fleeting. "And what's your verdict?" "Definitely trouble." She smiled back, small and daring. But the interesting kind. Silence stretched, electric. Then he stepped back, breaking the spell. Go to bed, Maya, before I forget why walls exist. She exhaled, shaky. Good night, Mr. Park. Seung-joon, he corrected, voice barely above a whisper. When it's just us. She nodded once, turned, and walked out, every nerve singing. Behind her, she heard him exhale like a man who'd been holding his breath for years. The sky over Seoul cracked open without warning. Maya had just finished wiping down the terrace furniture when fat raindrops began to slap the stone. Within seconds, the downpour turned biblical, sheets of water drumming the glass roof, wind whipping the garden into chaos. She laughed at the sudden drama of it, arms full of cushions, racing for the sliding doors. She didn't see Seung-joon until she burst inside, soaked through her thin white blouse and jeans, curls plastered to her neck. He stood in the open doorway to the living room, suit jacket already discarded, sleeves rolled to his forearms, watching her. You're drenched, he said, voice low over the thunder. Genius observation. She grinned, shaking water from her hands. Your storm came out of nowhere. He crossed the room in 3 strides, grabbed a thick towel from the nearby console, and draped it over her shoulders without asking. His fingers brushed the bare skin at her collarbone as he adjusted it. She froze. So did he. The towel was warm from the dryer. He was warmer. Lightning flashed, illuminating the sharp planes of his face, rain-streaked window behind him, shadows carving deeper under his eyes. For once, the mask slipped. He looked hungry. You should change, he murmured, but he didn't step back. I will. Her voice came out softer than she meant. In a minute. Another flash. Thunder rolled so close the floor vibrated. He lifted a hand, hesitated, then slowly tucked a wet curl behind her ear. His thumb lingered at her jawline, tracing the line like he was memorizing it. Maya's breath hitched. Seung-joon. The name slipped out like a secret. His eyes darkened. He leaned in, slow enough she could stop him, fast enough she didn't want to. Their foreheads touched first, a quiet collision. Then his mouth found hers. It wasn't gentle. The kiss started fierce, desperate, like something long restrained, finally breaking free. His lips were firm, demanding. Hers parted on a soft gasp. One hand cupped the back of her neck, fingers threading into wet curls, tilting her head exactly how he wanted. The other slid to her waist, pulling her flush against him until she felt every hard line of his body through soaked fabric. She kissed him back just as hard, hands fisting his shirt, tugging him closer. Rain hammered the windows like applause. His tongue brushed hers, slow and deliberate, tasting like mint and storm and everything forbidden. A low sound rumbled in his throat, half growl, half surrender. He backed her gently against the wall, never breaking the kiss. Her back met cool glass, his heat pressed front and center. One of his thighs slipped between hers, steadying her as her knees weakened. She arched into him instinctively, fingers sliding under his shirt to trace the ridges of those old scars. He shuddered. When they finally broke apart, both breathing ragged, foreheads pressed together again, the storm still raged outside. I've wanted to do that since the day you walked in, he confessed, voice rough. Maya smiled against his lips. Took you long enough. He kissed her again, slower this time, deeper, savoring. Hands roamed with more purpose, his palm gliding down her side, thumb brushing the underside of her breast through wet cotton, hers slipping to the small of his back, pulling him impossibly closer. Fabric clung, outlines blurred, heat built until the air felt thick enough to taste. Thunder cracked again. He pulled back just enough to look at her, eyes molten, pupils blown wide. We should stop. Do you want to? No. Honest, raw. But if we don't, I won't be able to. Maya searched his face, saw the war there, control versus need. She brushed her lips over his once more, soft this time. Then let's not stop being careful, she whispered. Not yet. He exhaled like relief and torment combined, rested his forehead against hers, and held her there as the storm howled on. Neither moved to let go. The villa felt different after the storm kiss, like the air itself remembered their mouths on each other. Days blurred into charged glances across rooms, fingers brushing when passing a coffee cup, his low, "Good morning, Maya," sounding more like a promise than a greeting. Friday night arrived humid and restless. Seung-joon had canceled his usual late meetings. Maya found him in the library at 10 p.m., tie loosened, shirt unbuttoned at the collar, reading something in Korean under the glow of a single lamp. He looked up when she entered with a tray of chamomile tea, her small peace offering for the tension that had been simmering all week. You didn't have to, he said, but his eyes tracked her every step. I wanted to. She set the tray down, poured a cup, handed it to him. Their fingers met again, deliberate this time. Neither let go right away. He set the cup aside, untouched. Come here. She crossed the last distance. He rose from the leather armchair, tall and shadowed, and gently took her hand. No words, just led her to the deep sofa by the window, where city lights glittered like distant stars. They sat, close, thighs touching. He turned to face her fully, studying her like she was the only thing worth seeing. I've tried to stay away, he murmured. Told myself it was safer, cleaner. Maya reached up, fingertips grazing his jaw. And I'm tired of pretending. His hand covered hers, pressing it to his cheek. Then he leaned in. This kiss was slower than the storm one, deeper, more intentional. Lips parted immediately, tongues meeting in a soft, searching glide. He tasted like tea he hadn't drunk, and the faint edge of want held back too long. One of his hands slid to her waist, pulling her across his lap until she straddled him. She gasped into his mouth at the sudden shift, feeling him hard beneath her. His palms roamed, up her back, under the hem of her thin sweater, tracing the warm skin along her spine. She arched, pressing closer, her own hand slipping inside his open shirt to map the hard planes of his chest, the raised lines of old scars. He groaned low when her nails lightly scraped over them. Maya. Her name was a rough exhale against her throat as he kissed down the column of her neck, slow, open-mouthed presses that made her shiver. His teeth grazed her pulse point, gentle threat, delicious promise. She tilted her head back, giving him more, fingers threading into his dark hair to hold him there. His hands moved higher, thumbs brushing the undersides of her breasts through lace. She moaned softly, hips rocking once against him in instinctive need. The friction drew a sharp hiss from him, his grip tightened on her hips, stilling her. Careful, he whispered, voice strained. You undo me too easily. Then let me. She kissed him again, hungrier now, tugging his shirt open wider so buttons popped free. Her palms flattened over his bare skin, feeling his heart slam beneath them. He flipped them in one smooth motion, laying her back against the cushions. He hovered above her, eyes dark and reverent, studying every inch of her flushed face. Then he lowered himself, weight braced on forearms, and kissed her like he was drowning and she was air. Clothes shifted, her sweater pushed up, his shirt discarded completely. Skin met skin in slow, burning slides, his chest against her lace-covered breasts, his hand cupping her through denim, thumb circling until she arched with a broken sound. His mouth followed, kissing the swell above her bra, then lower, teasing the edge with tongue and breath until she was trembling. They moved together in quiet urgency, hands exploring, hips pressing, breaths mingling in sharp gasps. Desire coiled tighter, hotter, until the edge felt razor close. Seung-joon lifted his head, eyes searching hers. Tell me to stop. She cupped his face. Don't. He kissed her once more, fierce, claiming, then gathered her close, rolling so she lay draped over him. They stayed like that, hearts racing, bodies still humming, neither willing to break the spell by speaking. The library lamp flickered. Outside, Seoul glittered on, indifferent. Inside, something irrevocable had shifted. They weren't employer and employee anymore. They were something dangerous, something real. 3 days after the library, the villa hummed with a new kind of silence. Maya moved through her chores with flushed memories, his hands on her skin, the way he'd whispered her name like a prayer. Seung-joon had been gone more than usual, returning only to pull her into shadowed corners for stolen kisses that left her dizzy and aching. Tonight he was in his study again. She'd brought him dinner on a tray, grilled salmon, the way he liked it, when his phone rang. He answered in Korean, voice low and edged with steel. She turned to leave, but the West Wing door stood ajar for the first time. Curiosity, that dangerous thing he'd warned her about, tugged her forward. Just a peek, she told herself. One look. The hallway beyond was darker, lined with monitors glowing faint blue. She stepped inside. A large screen showed live feeds, warehouses, docks, men in suits moving crates marked with the Park Syndicate crest. Another monitor displayed a map dotted with red pins, Seoul's underworld territories. Files on the desk bore names she recognized from news, rival families, police officials, shipments of weapons. Her heart slammed against her ribs. Footsteps. She spun. Seung-joon filled the doorway, phone still in hand, face carved from ice. Maya? Not a question, a warning. She backed up until the desk hit her thighs. You're not just a businessman. He closed the door behind him with a soft click that sounded final. No. The Park Syndicate. You run it. Her voice cracked. All those late nights, the scars, the men at the gate. I thought maybe security or family drama. Not this. He didn't deny it, just walked closer, slow, until only inches separated them. I told you curiosity was dangerous. You should have told me the truth. Hurt flashed hot in her chest, mixing with the memory of his mouth on hers. I let you touch me. I wanted you. And you're, what, a gangster? A killer? His jaw tightened. I protect what's mine. The empire was my father's. I inherited the blood on these hands. He lifted one, palm up, as if offering proof. I never wanted you near it. She stared at that hand, the same one that had traced her spine so tenderly. Tears stung her eyes. Then why hire me? Why kiss me like I mattered? Because you do. The words tore out of him. He closed the gap, cupping her face with both hands, thumbs brushing away the first tear. From the moment you smiled at me like the world wasn't ugly, I tried to stay away. God, I tried. His forehead dropped to hers. The fight drained from her body, even as anger still simmered. She could feel his heart racing against her chest. I should leave, she whispered. You should. His voice broke. But I don't want you to. Their mouths met, desperate, angry, aching. It wasn't soft. Teeth clashed, tongues battled. He lifted her onto the desk, stepping between her thighs, hands sliding under her shirt to grip bare waist. She moaned into the kiss, fingers yanking his tie loose, nails scraping his neck. Heat flared fast and fierce, his hips pressing forward, her legs wrapping around him instinctively. He broke the kiss, only to trail his mouth down her throat, sucking lightly at her pulse. Tell me to stop and I will. She couldn't, not when every touch reminded her how alive he made her feel. Her hands roamed his chest, feeling the scars she now understood. A sharp knock shattered the moment. A man's voice outside, urgent Korean. Seung-joon pulled back, breathing hard, eyes wild. Stay here. Lock the door. He was gone before she could answer. Maya slid off the desk on shaky legs, heart in her throat. She'd fallen for a mafia boss, and something told her the real storm was just beginning. The knock had barely faded when the first gunshot cracked through the night. Glass shattered somewhere downstairs. Maya's scream died in her throat as Seung-joon burst back into the study, gun already in hand, face carved from granite. Rivals, he bit out, grabbing her wrist. They found the breach. We run, now. He pulled her through a hidden panel behind the bookshelf, narrow stairs spiraling down into darkness. Alarms wailed above them, more shots, shouts in Korean. Her heart hammered so hard she could barely breathe. They emerged into the underground garage. He shoved her into a matte black SUV, sliding behind the wheel. Tires screamed as they burst through a concealed exit onto a rain-slick back road. Stay low, he ordered, one hand on the wheel, the other reaching for hers. Their fingers locked tight. Headlights flooded the rear view, two sedans closing fast. A bullet pinged off the trunk. Maya ducked, but Seung-joon swerved expertly, cutting through narrow alleys she didn't recognize. The city blurred into streaks of neon and rain. 10 minutes of heart-stopping chase later, he killed the lights and slid the SUV into an abandoned warehouse on the Han River docks. Silence crashed down. Only their ragged breathing filled the space. He killed the engine, turned to her. In the faint dock light filtering through cracked windows, his eyes burned. Fear, fury, and something raw. Are you hurt? His hands roamed her arms, her face, checking frantically. She shook her head, tears slipping free. You could have died up there. So could you. His voice cracked. Because of me. He yanked her across the console into his lap. Their mouths collided, desperate, frantic, tasting of rain and terror. No slow build this time, just pure need. His hands plunged into her curls, tilting her head as he devoured her kiss. She straddled him fully, knees bracketing his hips, fingers tearing at his shirt buttons until they scattered across the leather seat. Skin met skin. His chest was fever-hot, scars rough under her palms. She rocked against him, feeling every hard inch of his need. He groaned into her mouth, deep and broken, hands sliding under her blouse to cup her breasts, thumbs circling until she gasped his name like a lifeline. Maya. He kissed down her throat, teeth grazing, tongue soothing. One hand slipped lower, popping the button of her jeans, palm pressing flat against her stomach, then lower. Possessive, reverent. She arched, crying out softly as pleasure spiked sharp and bright. Clothes became obstacles. Her blouse hit the passenger seat. His shirt followed. They moved together in the cramped space, hips grinding, hands everywhere, breaths mingling in hot pants. He whispered against her lips in Korean and English, words she didn't need to translate. I've got you. I'm yours. Don't leave me. The world outside faded. Only them. Only this desperate claiming. He held her like she was the only thing keeping him alive. She kissed him like he was her forever. When the edge rushed up, he stilled her hips with trembling hands, forehead pressed to hers. Not here, he rasped. Not like this. When it's safe, I want all of you, properly. She nodded, tears mixing with sweat, clinging to him as aftershocks trembled through them both. Outside, distant sirens wailed, but in the dark SUV, wrapped in each other's arms, they were untouchable for one stolen moment. He kissed her temple softly. I'm ending this. For you. For us. She believed him, but the night wasn't over. Dawn bled gray over the warehouse docks. Seung-joon and Maya hadn't slept, only held each other in the SUV's back seat, wrapped in his discarded jacket, whispering promises between soft kisses. The city sirens had faded hours ago, but danger still clung like damp air. His phone buzzed once, encrypted message from his second-in-command. Choi family wants a meet. Neutral ground. Tonight. They have your location. Bring the woman or they burn everything. Seung-joon's face hardened. He showed her the screen. I'm ending this, he said quietly. No more running. Maya gripped his hand. You're walking into a trap. I know. He cupped her cheek. But if I don't go, they come for you next. I won't let that happen. She searched his eyes, saw the man who'd once warned her about curiosity, now ready to burn his entire world for her. Tears welled. Then I'm coming with you. No. Yes. She kissed him fiercely, tasting salt and resolve. We finish this together. He exhaled, defeated and devoted. Stay behind me, always. The meet was set at an abandoned shipyard on the river's edge, rusted cranes looming like skeletons under floodlights. Seung-joon arrived alone in appearance, Maya hidden in the shadows of a shipping container 50 meters back, heart in her throat. Choi Min-ho, the rival boss, waited with 6 armed men, older, scarred, smirking. Park Seung-joon, the untouchable, finally bleeds. Seung-joon stepped into the light, hands visible. This ends tonight. You want territory? Take it. But she walks away untouched. Choi laughed. The Maid? You'd trade an empire for a foreigner? I'd trade my life. Seung-joon's voice never wavered. Let her go. I'll step down. Syndicate dissolves. You win. Maya's breath caught. He was sacrificing everything. Choi's smile faded into suspicion. Prove it. Kneel. Seung-joon dropped to one knee without hesitation, King of Seoul's underworld bowing in the dirt. Maya couldn't watch anymore. She stepped out, voice steady despite trembling. He's telling the truth. Let him live and I'll disappear. You'll never see either of us again. Every gun swung toward her. Seung-joon surged up. Maya, no! Chaos erupted. Choi's men opened fire. Seung-joon tackled her behind a container, shielding her body with his as bullets sparked metal. His own backup, silent until now, exploded from the shadows, precise lethal shots dropping Choi's guards one by one. Seung-joon drew his weapon, returned fire with cold accuracy. When Choi raised his gun toward Maya, Seung-joon put 2 rounds center mass. The rival boss crumpled. Silence fell, broken only by ringing ears and distant river lap. Seung-joon dropped the gun, pulled Maya into his arms. Blood streaked his sleeve, not his. Hers? No, shrapnel grazed on her arm. He tore his shirt, wrapped it tight. I'm done, he whispered against her hair. The Empire dies tonight. My men know. They'll dismantle everything, clean. No loose ends. She clung to him, sobbing softly. You were going to let them kill you. For you? Yes. He kissed her forehead, her cheeks, her lips. Gentle now, reverent. I love you, Maya. More than power. More than anything. I love you too, she breathed. Always did. He held her as his remaining loyalists secured the scene. Sirens approached, ones he'd called himself. Surrender, not escape. By sunrise, the Park Syndicate would be legend only, and they would be free. 2 weeks later, the Park Syndicate no longer existed. Seung-joon had kept his word. Every account frozen, every warehouse emptied, every alliance dissolved, under international oversight he himself had invited. The man who once ruled Seoul's shadows now stood in a simple black suit on the private rooftop garden of their new penthouse overlooking the Han River. No guards, no secrets. Just him and the woman who had saved him. Maya stepped onto the roof in a flowing white sundress that caught the golden sunset, curls loose and glowing. Her arm was healed, her heart full. Behind her, Mrs. Kim, now more friend than housekeeper, wiped happy tears and slipped away quietly. Seung-joon turned, and the world stopped. He dropped to one knee without hesitation. The same man who had once knelt for her safety, now kneeling for forever. In his palm rested a simple diamond ring, elegant, timeless, nothing flashy, just like the life they'd chosen. Maya Thompson, he said, voice steady, but eyes shining. I gave up an empire for you, but I'd give up every sunrise if it meant waking beside you. Marry me. Let me spend the rest of my life proving I'm yours completely. Tears spilled down her cheeks as she laughed, joyful and free. Yes, 1,000 times yes. He slid the ring onto her finger, rose, and pulled her into his arms. Their kiss was slow, deep, and full of promise. Lips parting, tongues brushing softly, hands roaming with the ease of 2 people who had already survived hell and found heaven. He lifted her gently, her legs wrapping around his waist as he carried her inside to the bedroom bathed in sunset light. Clothes fell away like old armor. Skin met skin in reverent slides, his mouth tracing every inch of her, whispering, "I love you," against her throat, her breasts, the curve of her hip. She arched beneath him, fingers in his hair, moaning his name like a song. They moved together with aching tenderness, bodies fitting perfectly, breath sinking in rising waves of pleasure. Heat built, slow and sweet, until they tumbled over the edge together, gasping, trembling, holding each other as if letting go would break the world. Afterward, wrapped in silk sheets and each other, he pressed a kiss to her temple. No more shadows, only us. Only us, she echoed, tracing the faded scars that no longer defined him. 2 years later. The small garden behind their modest Hanok-style home in the quiet hills outside Seoul bloomed with cherry blossoms. Maya, now 7 months pregnant, laughed as their 2-year-old daughter, Ji-yeon, toddled after butterflies. Her curls, dark and wild like her mother's, bounced with every step. Seung-joon watched from the porch, sleeves rolled up, apron dusted with flour from the pancakes he'd burned twice trying to perfect for breakfast. The former mafia king now ran a legitimate import business, tea and ceramics, and volunteered teaching self-defense to at-risk youth. No guns, no blood, only peace. He crossed the garden, scooped Ji-yeon into one arm, and wrapped the other around Maya's waist. "My girls," he murmured, kissing Maya slow and sweet, the kind of kiss that still made her toes curl after all this time. She leaned into him, hand on her belly where their son kicked in agreement. "Forever in Seoul." "Forever with you," he corrected. The sun warmed their little family. No rivals, no fear, just love, deep, steady, and beautifully ordinary. And they lived happily, completely, without a single loose end.